Hey everybody, welcome back. So continue on from the first video of our series, part two actually, talking about nutrition and getting into macronutrients. We were talking about proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. So the first thing we want to do is talk about protein and some of the things that why is it important and how does it tie in and what is it? Well, protein is the building blocks of the body. It both repairs and it creates. So why is it so important to the body? Well, science and some studies have shown that a high protein, high carbohydrate, low fat diet, it's the way to go. It's the most reinforced type of study. No, so what about Atkins? What about these low fat? What about protein? I don't want to get bulky and get too big. It's like, listen. First thing you got to understand is that there is a requirement for anybody's body for how much protein it needs. It typically is, there's a myth that it's gram per pound of your body weight. That's not true. First of all, it's in kilograms. So how do I know how much protein I need? Well, with my clients, what I do is I do a lot of this work for them. But it's simply you take your body weight and divide it by 2.2, and that will give you your weight in kilograms. That's just a conversion that we do. And then we look at, okay, let's say I'm 29, so let's say you're me, and you're kind of active. I work out a couple times a week, but I don't play any sports, and I sit in my butt a lot. When I'm not in the gym, I'm chilling, so I probably need, maybe because of like muscle and stuff, I've been working out for a little while, maybe it's a gram per kilogram. So I'm 210, so give or take, that's about 90 kilograms, right? So I need 90 grams of protein. So in my diet, every day, I need to get 90 grams of protein in. So you probably think, well, wow, that's too complicated. That's a lot of math. It's really not. Weigh yourself. Be honest. Let's say you weigh 160 pounds. Okay? It doesn't really have to do with your height or your gender at face value. Okay? Let's say you weigh 70 kilograms. Okay? So then we think, well, if you're a woman, you're not going to need as much protein. You don't have as much muscle, so it's pretty black and white. So then what you do from there is then you consider, okay, well, I need 50 grams of protein. So talk about protein now. How do I get this protein? How am I going to know how much protein I'm getting? Well, it does take some work, okay? The best way to do it is to probably get prepackaged foods. And I'm going to allude to this a lot because it's kind of like the first step in nutrition. This is get prepackaged food. You know, get something that or at least something with a menu that you can kind of gauge. If you go to a restaurant, you know how many calories they have, go online, figure out, you know, where am I going to go? Like say Olive Garden, and then you get like the tour of Italy, how much protein's in that, and then kind of figure out, okay, these are my calories, this is my protein, then eat according to that. The second is to get MyFitnessPal, I highly encourage, or any of the fitness apps that you can log food into. Now the second step is, second macro we want to talk about is carbohydrates. Now this video is going to be a little long, so I apologize. So we'll just kind of watch it in pieces, I guess, but this is the meat and potatoes, guys, of what nutrition is for people trying to lose weight. It's understanding what this stuff is and how it plays into you. So carbohydrates is sugar. Now, sugar is a form of like sucrose, glucose, glycogen, muscle sugar, and then understanding a lot of these sugars. And at face value, sugar is sugar, okay? So without having to get into it, the sugar from soda, the sugar from coffee, or from strawberries, it's all sugar. So your body treats all the sugar the same. Whatever it can't use, it converts and it stores as fat. So you guys got to understand that. So let's look at how much sugar do I need? Do I go no sugar? You know, I got to have my coffee, you know, or I got to have my energy drink. So like, what do I do? Well, it's important to understand that sugar is not the devil, and it's not bad. Carbohydrates, and I just said high protein, high carbs, so you know carbohydrates as well is like bread, potatoes, so not just sugar, but carb is an energy source, and it's typically a lot of energy for a very little amount, so a lot of calories. Remember, energy and calories. So if I have a piece of bread, that's a lot of carbs. So you got to think, you know, we don't want to overdo our carbs, but we also don't want to just load up on carbs at random points of the day. So that's kind of meal timing, which I'll get into later because I don't want to rabbit trail. And understanding that, okay, carbs are important because it's energy for me. My energy levels are highly affected by carbohydrates. So if you ever notice anyone in the Atkins diet is always tired all the time, so they don't have carbs in the beginning anyways. So the next macro is fat or triglycerides. So fat, right? Fat's bad. You know, I got to stay away from fat. Well, you're not entirely wrong. You know, I did say high protein, high carb, low fat. So it only makes sense. If I'm trying to lose fat, I don't want to take in fat. But it's also important to get your fat from the right places. You know, don't get your fat from cheap processed fat. I'll tell people flat out, don't do saturated fat. It's bad. It's saturated. It's saturated in fat. So you're going to take an oil, and then that's just going to mess things up. And you don't want to get on a fatty diet because that's just going to cause heart problems down the road. So fat or triglycerides. So not all triglycerides are bad. Fat is really used up a lot by the heart. You want to have a healthy heart. Fat's important too. It has a lot to do with, you know, insulatory. I mean, we don't have to get too complicated, but it protects the vital organs. It has a lot to do, again, with being used for long-term exercise, which I'll cover much later on, like how does exercise tie into all this. But those are your three macros, guys: proteins, fats, and carbs. Typically, by the pie scale, it's 50% 50% carb, 30% protein, and 20% fat. Now that depends on, you know, what you need and what you need to do, and it gets complicated. You know, how many grams for me do I need? Well, I said, you know, protein is going to be 2.2 your body in kilograms, so it's your weight divided by 2.2 equals this many kilograms, and then you kind of figure how active am I, how much do I really need. Carbs, it depends. It's typically based on the individual, and it goes off of it's kind of complicated actually. So how many carbs do I need? If you know how many protein I need. I try to give most people who have a normal diet range around 80 to 100 grams of carbs in a given day. Unless you're an athlete, if you're a normal everyday person, 80 to 100 grams is pretty good. You don't really need more than that. Now fat is a little more lenient. Now my numbers, you know, give or take, it just depends on you. You got to understand, this will be the last part I explain, but the fat, you're trying to reduce it. So 20 to 40 grams of fat, you know, is what you're looking for. Without getting complicated, how much saturated, how much trans fat should I have? There are recommended amounts for that, and you can find those answers out there, but at face value, that's what you should be looking for. So protein is the most important macro, in my opinion, for people, because you want muscle. You want muscle. Muscle helps keep weight off long term. I preach that to my clients. But the thing is fat is the most calorically dense one. So per gram calorie yield, it's 944. 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. 1 gram of carbs is 4 calories. 1 gram of protein is 4 calories. So that's why it's so important to reduce fat and keep the carbs and protein high, because they don't have such a heavy caloric yield, which means it doesn't take as much to burn it off. So in my next video, I'm going to give you the meat and potatoes after, right? So we talked about nutrition, what are calories. Now we got to kind of get a little into it with metabolism. How do I burn? How is my diet going to tie into exercise? And then we'll try to cover that. Thanks, guys.